So I have 1,300 miles on my YXZ right now, and I gotta be honest, I haven't been in love with it. It's been having intermittent performance issues. I'm pretty much stock. I have the Weather Racing tune, stock tune. So basically just lower fan activation temperatures, and it hasn't helped. And I've been troubleshooting with Kyle, sent him my logs, but nothing really stood out. So I've been chasing this problem all winter. It's been hard to troubleshoot because it's been so cold, and that, I don't want to suffer frostbite. I don't have a heated garage. So just now that temperatures have warmed up enough to where I can work on this thing, I've been able to track it down. I've been through most of the typical stuff. Check ignition, check your spark plug coils, check for your sensors. I disconnected everything from the engine except for the stator harness. The problem would be more persistent when it was wet. That's why I thought it was an electrical connection maybe causing it. But it really was escaping me. And I finally have narrowed it down. And I'm very critical of Yamaha. That's why I own one. I expect perfection, and when my vehicle's not running perfect, it bugs the shit out of me. If you own a side-by-side, no matter what brand, you really ought to have some mechanical knowledge. If you don't have it, you behoove yourself to get that knowledge. And YouTube will make you a decent mechanic. Sometimes you got to rely on yourself. So I've gone through all this troubleshooting. I'm going to share with you what I found. I hate bashing Yamaha. And this isn't a Yamaha bashing video. It's more to help the Newnan employees. Hopefully they see my videos, and they can incorporate it into their checks, because what I found isn't easy to check. It's very difficult. And I'll give you a brief overview right now. So the main culprit I found causing my issue was my air intake. One of the tubes, the middle tube, was loose and not connected to the throttle body. So I was ingesting dirty air. So I've got this all torn apart because I have an intake leak. It wasn't installed properly. It's a 2025 YXZ. You really can't see whether that back side of the middle throttle body boot's seated or not. But if you go look right there. So I had to remove this snorkel piece, and then see if you'll zoom in there. You can see right there that it's not seated. I don't see how anybody can QC these things properly, because you can't see that back of that boot except from this angle. You can't go in through this side and see it. So just a little tip if you're trying to see if it's seated or not. It's gotten worse over time, and initially it was probably just barely off, but then it came off all the way. And in troubleshooting, I found other issues. My spark plug boots weren't seated all the way, so I got some water in there, and that caused an initial problem. I fixed that, but then problem came back. So additionally, the temperature sensor back there, and that wasn't seated all the way. In addition, the bolts on my secondary air filter housing weren't fully tightened down, so there was a small leak there. And one of the symptoms from all of this was filling up with clean water. This was filling up with water, but this one was not. So, you know, why would this not be full of water, but the other one would be? And, you know, it could be condensation from the airflow and, you know, humid air. Who knows? But I thought it was weird that this wasn't full of water, but the other one was. And one final thing you can check, if you look at when you're doing your first transmission service, you gotta take, you know, this panel off, and while you're doing that, you can take this panel off. Check your gas vent hose that runs underneath here and make sure it's not kinked. I think they might have fixed that because I didn't find that problem on this one, but some of the guys in the 2024 models, they found their vacuum line kinked, and it caused their gas tank to crush from all the pressure. So just some things to check, especially if you're having problems. You know, if you, as you can see, I like to keep my engine clean, so I wash it. And my 2024 XTR, I could wash this and no problems, because Yamaha uses good weather protectors, so I really wasn't worried about my connectors getting wet. And once I fixed my intake leak, I washed the engine and it's no problem. And this thing runs like a raped ape now that intake leak is fixed. It runs great. And it idles smooth too. I'll start it up. She idles really smooth, just like my 24 did. So, you know, the last 2 days I've been running this, and it's been running great. Ran like my 2024 did after I fixed the intake leak. So the best way I found to get the backside of the middle boot on is use a pair of large channel locks and just get that jaw on the backside, and then just tweak it on there. So I'm from the passenger side, and get the middle boot on, clamp it down, and then do the two ends. So I think I have it seated on there. So let's zoom in. You have to come over to the left. It's so hard to see. And then you can see it's flush with the throttle body. So I'm going to crank that down. Oh, what a pain in the ass. Just a little better shot of it. And that fuel rail's in their way. So, you know, this is like the only vantage point you can get to see if it's seated with that fuel rail in the way. There we go. You You can see the metal part right in front of that plastic nub. That's closer to me. You can see the flange, and it's parallel to the flange, and now I know it's seated properly. So this front one, it's really hard to see, but if you look through this hole here, zoom in, and it looks like it's flush, but there's no flange to really tell. I know the front's on because I can see it. Brand new 2025 YXZ. That's air intake temperature sensor. It should not be loose like that. If it is, it's not going to seal. All right. See if it can you zoom back out to show you where that is in relation to the engine. Okay. Talking way back over here, and that's a pain in the butt to get to. So you can see now that this is flush and tight. The sensor, the connector wiggles, but the sensor itself is seated against the air housing. Another tip is to hold that screw onto your Phillips, even if you have a magnetic head. Just get some heat shrink, place it over the Phillips screw, and then put on your Phillips screwdriver and it'll hold it in place. Trying to reach back there without falling off. Some tips with your YXZ spark plugs. This is stock, and you'll notice it has a sleeve on it, which I'll show you here. There's a stainless inner sleeve and then painted outer sleeve. By default, the parting lines match up. You want to install them so the outer sleeve doesn't line up with the inner sleeve's parting line. And I don't know why they do it like that, but if you were going to have an electrical spark short, it would come through this gap. So just take your sleeve. I've compressed mine so they it goes back on tight. Just make sure your parting lines don't match up and put them maybe 180 degrees apart. The other thing is your rubber boots. My ignition problem was I had moisture in the spark plug well and it was causing shorting. So grease the inside of your boots and then slide them on, and as well as grease the outside, and hopefully that'll prevent moisture from getting in. But I've only have 350 miles, and I was having a hesitation issue, and it's because moisture got past these boots and into the spark plug well. Just to show them what I'm talking about, I'm reinstalling my sleeves here, and I have the black sleeve gap at the front and then the inner sleeve gap at the back. So then the outer sleeve overlaps completely. All right, guys. I have 1,000 miles on my 2025 YXZ, and I've been plagued by this stuttering issue between 3,000 and 5,000 RPMs. And I started noticing that, after a rain, or if I washed my YXZ, that it would be more prominent. And I've heard a couple people complain that, their gasket wasn't properly installed. And so I figured I'd pull my secondary air filter cover off and inspect it. And mine wasn't in place, but so this is the 2025, and hopefully the camera catches this. You can see the gasket's a little bit deformed. Now this is the air cover that Greg sent me because he upgraded to a turbo. And you can see that gasket's nice and round. Alright, now if I look at my air filter box, especially there at the bottom, you can see it's deformed. And I know what you're thinking, well, the plastic lip contacts that and it presses it in, but this isn't, it's not nice and uniform like this one. And you can see there's some moisture there. And this drain inspection thing was full of clear water, and you really couldn't tell because it was full to here. But it was so clean that you couldn't tell that it was full. And luckily I couldn't find any dust trails or, you know, I wasn't too worried about dirt escaping this seal, but definitely moisture was. So I'm going to put Greg's cover back on, which has a nice seal. And I'm hoping that fixes my problem, because this has been going on for, you know, ever since we got above freezing. It's been, and that makes sense because, you know, during winter the water's going to be frozen and not going to get ingested. But it was really weird. I've also added a bead of sealing grease. I'm just using Tink Seal around the gasket just to help it seal a little bit better.